All right, Wayne.
Pawn.
What'd you say?
I was just saying. I was just
Would
talking.
you pass the Grey Poupon? You never heard that commercial, did you?
No, he was like
No, I didn't.
5.
It's a rich guy in a Rolls Royce who drives up to, I think, another rich guy.
Are you
and,
saying you're a rich guy today in a Rolls Royce?
Anyway, and the windows come down, and the guy's like, "Would you pass the Grey Poupon?"
Amit was urinating into a diaper
Yeah.
at that point.
That was a great commercial, by the way. Maybe you should just play
It was a good commercial. But
okay, Bitcoin, what's happening?
Well, no, I was talking with Crossroads on X. The amount of institutional participation right now throws off the metrics, all of these years of data that we've had to predict Bitcoin's price action. Because I've been doing a lot of research. Look, there's a lot of narrative saying we're waiting for retail to come back. There's like almost no interest on the retail side. We're not seeing searches. You know, Benjamin Cowan did a great video on the fact that like the crypto YouTube channels are not pumping. So we're not seeing the retail excitement or participation in this rally that we've seen in cycles prior. But here we are, you know, $2,000 away from the all-time high. It's anyone that says they know what Bitcoin's going to do is lying. I don't know what Bitcoin's going to do, and I'm trying to remove the bias that I have from the previous cycles. All I can say is that this is unprecedented for us to either be at or breaking all-time highs before a halving event. Like, this is fucking insane.
I just want to point out that if he didn't buy his TFC, instead he went into Bitcoin.
No, you're right. You're right about
the opportunity cost. This is what I mean. This is exactly what we were talking about. Like, we could have left Bitcoin that was down and out and nobody cared about it. And TFC is pumping. And we're looking like schmucks, Carlos, because we're at 15,000 BTC. We don't look like schmucks today. Let me put it this way.
To be fair, when I bought TFC, BTC was 30 grand, but your point is well taken. I mean, I get your point. When I should have been buying was
I'm not actually saying that's not wrong, by the way. I still have my
I agree. I get your point.
I'm just saying there's opportunity costs when you're running in and out of things, as opposed to just having a thesis about one or two things.
100%.
Look, Ren at 602. You're absolutely right. We might see a tanking after the halving, but
yeah, can we talk about that? What is the bear case after halving for why this thing collapses?
It's because the miners start making the miners' profits get crushed and immediately.
Well, you're talking about miners, but for BTC, meaning like we're all prepping for the halving. All of this buildup, people are buying, expecting the halving. Once it's here, would you not expect some sort of pullback? I don't know what it'll be, but wouldn't you expect that?
I would, but it depends. If we break the all-time high now, we might have that pullback might happen before.
It might happen at 80,000. Who the hell knows?
That's what I'm saying. It could happen at 80 grand.
But here's the question. This is what I'm confused about. If the halving happens and you get a less amount of supply, but there's still a lot of demand, isn't that a logical conclusion that it wouldn't tank? It would surge. What is the reason why it would tank if that happens?
Well, it would tank because it would tank because large coin holders would realize some of those gains, right?
At what price, though? Like, what price do you think people start getting excited?
Most of us believe that we wouldn't break all-time highs till after the halving. So now that we were close to breaking it 47 days before the halving, it's fucking anyone's guess. It's the same as trying to predict what happens to a company when they're going to crush earnings or if there's going to be an S&P inclusion. You don't know what's going to happen. Bitcoin is crazy because it always finds a way of doing what you don't expect, even when so much of it is predictable. It's insane. So I would say miners might pull some profits at these levels. If we get up to over the $80,000, it would keep them from having to dilute the shareholders to continue the operations. Like, they're not going to be selling Bitcoin after the halving. They're going to be diluting shares. They're going to be pulling a Michael Saylor, at least until they start seeing the price action go up. So, I mean, I just don't know.
So is this a top? That's the are we actually, because if we're getting to 100K like everyone says, then this should just be getting started. But it feels like we're kind of at the end of the cycle in some respects.
Look, Jesse's pointed out before, and
I don't think we're at the end. No.
I don't think we're at the end either. And Jesse's pointed this out too. And it's worth repeating. When you're in a massive bull run or a massive bear market, narratives matter almost more than the fundamentals, right? When Tesla's tanking off of a cliff, it's a lot easier for that price to go down when the sentiment is following that. And it's the same thing with crypto when these things are running up. The narratives are more important, so it can continue to run as long as the narrative supports it, right?
Vitaly, your thoughts on having?
Well, I mean, I think honestly, I thought we'd have a pullback before even reaching $70,000. So like months and months ago, I would have thought it pulled back at 50, went to 30. Like usually Bitcoin has very volatile 30% like pullbacks, 40%. Like if you look at the last couple of cycles, meaning like there's like 10 of them. It's not like one of them. Okay. We haven't had that at all. It hasn't, besides the crash to 15K, it's been basically for the last year and a half, almost straight up. Look, all green candles. There's been like no red at all. So I would be surprised if it kept going, honestly. Maybe it goes past the all-time high and hits some sort of resistance. I don't know where, over 70, 75, 80, who knows? And then it massively collapses. And I mean collapses temporarily. I actually don't mean permanently, but it might scare a lot of people away because a 50% collapse would not be unlike Bitcoin to do that. A giant wick to wash out everybody.
My feeling is that we won't get a 50% correction if we do. If you look at the charts,
or 30%, something is coming. Something massive is coming.
Yes, even on the Bitcoin bull run years, a 30% correction. As long if they're buying into, if you're selling off, these big sell-offs that happen into rallies are about 30%. But keep in mind, we've only really barely touched these price levels. So when we see a 30% correction, if a certain amount of money comes out of Bitcoin, say when these things are running up at lower market caps, that's going to translate to a bigger drop. At this market cap, we're at $1.2 trillion.
So here's my thing. Here's my thing.
Evil's coming in every day to eat this up every day.
Exactly. That's my point. If we do get some 30% drop or 10% drop, whatever, in every past rally,
is not. That's nothing. That doesn't even mean anything. It has to be 30% plus to mean anything.
Okay, so my point is there have never been institutions involved. It's always been retail, which is super easy to get them to paper hand. But now if this thing falls 15, 20%, don't you think it would be harder to get to that 30% because the ETFs or the
that's the point. And keep in mind, there's a halo effect. Like we talk about Cybertruck, people seeing Cybertrucks and then they go out and buy a Model Y. You can't put that in a spreadsheet, right? So we don't know exactly what the effect is. The same thing with Bitcoin. If you now know that there's these ETFs that are available, that has a halo effect of people going out and buying and being able to buy the individual assets themselves. Also, the way that the rules have changed about companies holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet has changed. So they can just go out and put this and hold it on their balance sheets now. So there's too many positive catalysts, or just catalysts in general, pulling it in a bunch of different directions where we don't know exactly what that's going to be, what the effect is going to be long term. It seems.
So I want to point out there's a lot of people leveraging up. So I know we're talking about like, oh, there's a pullback, it'll get bought up. Yeah, I think so too. But it's going to be 30% pullback no matter what, because there are people here even going long who are, remember in all these crypto bubbles, and I do call it a bubble, it goes way past intrinsic value. That's the whole point. And then it comes back to reality, right? But what happens is that everybody starts gambling. There are lots of websites that you can 10x leverage, 100x leverage. Like Bitcoin is crazy.
You can 100x leverage on Bitcoin?
Yes.
What's the name of the website?
I think it's Bitfinex. If maybe someone could call it out. But there are sites where you can especially Chinese websites. Okay. You can 100x leverage and then you get creamed. Basically, it goes down $5,000. You get creamed. Okay.
Yeah.
So there are lots of people now starting this gamble, believing we're going to $100,000. And that's when Bitcoin pulls the rug. It doesn't pull it when like everybody's thinking it's going to back off. Like I think it pulls it when everybody's getting leverage, because then the big dogs come in and pull the rug from out under everybody, because they could still move the market because they control it. They've been there for freaking a decade. So I think that's still happening, Carlos. I don't think that's going away for a long time, this volatility. So this 30% pullback is coming. But once again, if you weren't buying from 15K to 40K, maybe you'll never see 40K again, because you just won't get it, So you were thinking it was always going to pull back and pull back and pull back, and you've missed it. Now it's at 80. It pulls back to 50. Well, you still missed it. You know what I'm saying?
The other thing that I want to mention too, and I don't think, Amit, we've ever really talked about this, is like the way that Bitcoin functions in the overall crypto sphere. Mm-hmm. There are certain metrics that we track. I'm being much more diligent about tracking these things now. The two main metrics that I'm tracking outside of Bitcoin's price action and its relation to the moving averages, et cetera, are the Bitcoin dominance, right? So you want to know how much of the entire totality of crypto, what percentage of that is
like 46%. Last time I checked, it is
typically we're right now at
53%.
Right. So if we get to 60%, that's usually when you start to see a pullback. These to me, the total Bitcoin's market cap relative to the total crypto market cap as well as Bitcoin to Ethereum. If you look at just like the last two big moves in price action, they were called spot on by the Bitcoin Ethereum, which basically means how many Ethereum do you need to buy a Bitcoin, right? If Bitcoin runs up too much compared to Ethereum, a lot of the whales will usually transfer to Ethereum because they feel it's undervalued compared to Bitcoin. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like, so I just looked up, just so people know, I looked up 100x leverage Bitcoin. Not hard. Go search for it. BTC exchange, BTCC exchange. Like, there's so many exchanges where you can go 100x leverage on. So it's kind of crazy.
Can we do 1000x leverage? Is that possible?
I don't know if there's 1000x, but I definitely 100x leverage. Is that not enough for you?
Dude, why don't we just do 10,000?
It's like honest.
If it goes up 1 penny, I want to make $10,000.
I mean, it's
or you lose your house.
or you get wiped out immediately.
Yeah,
right?
you get wiped out. It's
so the problem with that leverage is you get wiped out. A small move wipes you out.
It's not a call out.
So this is real. This has always been going on in crypto. That's why I think it's super volatile. A lot of things aren't regulated the way they are. Starting to get there, of course, but they're not yet. We're still in like the wild west of crypto, even though everybody thinks it's established, right?
I know.
Oh, there's an ETF. Fuck that. There's like Bunk coin going 1000x right now. All right.
Okay. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about these meme coins? How do you? So Doge is up 130%. Do you feel this is peak bubble? Like I'm up 4x on a meme
130%. Big what? Doge 130? No, we need 10,000% before we feel bubblish.
Okay, so you think these bubble coins, these rallies in meme coins are not anything in terms of a bubble?
I'm not saying they won't be volatile, but this means nothing right now. Yeah.
No.
Why does it mean nothing?
No, meaning that we are nowhere near a top, in my opinion. So I think those shit coins have ways to go. But
what is a top? Can you define that? What is the characteristic?
Well, Bitcoin calls the top. What do you mean? Can I define?
But Bitcoin's basically at the all-time high. So why isn't this not a top?
That's not a top, though. That can be a temporary top. I agree with you. But the thesis by everybody is that we're going over 100,000. And I heard on your live stream today, people are saying we're going to 300,000.
Correct.
Those people want to fuck you, by the way. Do not believe those people. Those people go on CNBC after Bitcoin is like 150K and say it's going to 300,000 while they're selling right underneath you.
Yeah, 100%.
That is what's going on. You better get the F out. You better have these price targets to leave. So my point is Bitcoin is not at the top, at least in my opinion, it's not. So until that is the top, then even the shit coins will continue running.
Oh, you're right. Everything's going to run if Bitcoin runs. That's 1,000% correct.
Yeah, your whole thesis is hood is going to run based on Bitcoin. All right. So
yeah, no, that's true.
The thing that I want to point out, that's unique to crypto versus the stock market is that all these altcoins, you have to understand why the altcoin market is so important, because unlike the stock market, it's actually very easy to go from Bitcoin to these other coins. Like on Robinhood, or I don't know how it is on Robinhood, but on Coinbase, if I want to convert 10,000 Bitcoin to Ethereum, it's very easy. You just hit convert to Ethereum, and now you're holding that. It's like as if you were, selling out of Apple or one of the big Mag 7 to buy a smaller cap. But the ease of it, the fact that it's so easy, is you see people moving in and out. This is why I've been tracking the total market cap of Bitcoin. So in other words, Bitcoin's price can still go up and the total market cap of crypto stays exactly the same if people start transferring their money from altcoins into Bitcoin. Does that make sense? So you can track, you can see total total crypto market cap, $1.3 trillion, stays exactly there, but Bitcoin's price is rising. That means it's usurping market cap from the altcoins. So what typically happens is people start building positions in altcoins, waiting for a Bitcoin run, because the idea is once Bitcoin has its blow off top and people take those profits, they start to shower that money down into the altcoins. To me, this is not evidence of an altcoin top, more so than it is people spring loading their altcoin portfolios waiting for the Bitcoin top. It looks very different when the altcoins run. Like VITALY is saying, you're talking about 1000x returns. Coins that have not moved in years, that are worth hundredths of a penny, are now trading at $2, $3. That's when you start seeing, okay, we're topping out here on the altcoin market. But to me, this is just people FOMOing in, trying to get little coins.
In 2017, I didn't know a lot about this, so I hope people are learning if they are in crypto. In 2017, I had XRP like at 10 cents, and it went to $3. I thought it was going to $7. Okay,
Did you sell? Did you sell?
I sold very little.
Fucking XRP.
Incredibly little XRP. I mean, look, I ended up selling a lot of it, basically still winning, but when it was tanking down back to like 50 cents or whatever. So yes, I got some return, but not the return I should have had. So people should just realize when things are running like that, you got to sell half of it at least. Like, let the other half ride, but fine. This is the financial advice. I think we've given this before. Take the fucking money.
So
Okay.
Troy Baker says last Doge run went from 0.0003 to 70. This is what you guys are saying is a real bull run.
That's a real.
That's
100% in Dogecoin means nothing to anybody.
Places, so that's what is that? It's 10, 100,000.
Hold on, let me divide.
So that's
nobody's buying Dogecoin to get a double. Like who the hell's like, all right, instead of Amazon, let me put this in Doge.
I will share. Wow, we're at 20 cents. I will share one piece of a portfolio.
Matt says if you're not prepared for 2026 crypto window, don't get involved in hot 2025.
I think we're actually going to peak within the next 10 to 12 months, and then we're going to spend 3 years.
So yeah, you have to be in this crap right now. If you're in it, if you're getting in 2025, oh boy. And that's exactly the mistake I made. 2016, 2017 to 2018, I thought we were still in a bull market. And no, we were not. And it took me months to figure that out because I kept hoping. There was a hope in the back that it would just return. And it doesn't do that. It doesn't come back. It takes 4 years for it all to come back. Well,
now we're back. Now we're back.
Well, now, yes, this is like round 3 or 4 for me. So now I'm used to this. The volatility doesn't bother me. In fact, I wish it was more volatile. Bitcoin hasn't been that volatile in terms of the downside. Where is it? Because I've been buying every single day.
You get more confidence now. You're like, okay, we've seen this before. You start to see.
Yeah. At this point, honestly, I wasn't even expecting that it would go to $70,000 so fast. I thought I would still have time to.
This has been so fast.
Bro, I just want to show you, like, literally, this is one thing that I will share. I've been DCAing into Doge like $5 a day, $10 a day for, look, $5 a day, $10 a day for probably, I don't know, 2 years now. Like,
holy shit. So how much are you up on Doge?
No, I literally, I said to myself, and I think I even said this.
I think he's down on Doge.
I have been down on Doge forever. Just DCAing, just DCAing.
It's coming back. It's coming back.
Oh yeah, and I'm finally positive. This is what daily DCAing every day over like a year or two. It's a 20 grand. $21,000, and I'm up 24%.
I mean, to be fair, these are all spec bets. I have a Cardano spec bet, and it's like, I mean, who cares about this? Like, the spec bets can go to zero. F it, because Ethereum and Bitcoin are doing what they're supposed to do.
But it's $5 a day. It's me saying I'm not going to get that Starbucks. I'm going to just.
You still got the Starbucks.
Stupid little. No, I've been.
You
really
definitely still got the Starbucks, dude.
Here and there, I'll treat myself. But I was doing this every day, and I started saying, what would happen if I just threw this into Doge every day?
Dude, when we went to Vegas at the Airbnb, Carlos was so mad because he was like, why is there no coffee in this Airbnb? I was like, we have orange juice. He's like, no. We need Starbucks right now. I was like,
yeah, we did go to Starbucks. But I mean, we're in Vegas. I was meeting you crazy fucks for the first time. So that was we Airbnb to it. I mean, we Uber to it too.
Uber.
So we spent
that cost you $40.
Yeah, I remember.
Thanks for supporting my stocks, guys.
You're welcome. What do you guys think about this? Robinhood's number 8 on the App Store. Coinbase is number 7. Thoughts on that? What does that mean?
That's a better indicator. That's one of the indicators that retail is starting to come back.
Retail is getting involved. When it's number 1, maybe we should start selling.
It's still number like 150 in the overall App Store, but in the finance category, it's beating Bank of America, Wells Fargo.
It'd be interesting to look it up. What was Coinbase in the 2018 and 2021? Like, what was it then? I mean, 2020, 2017.
What, the app?
Was there a Coinbase app?
It was number 1. It was number 1 in the whole App Store when that happened. The whole US app, like, it beat Facebook.
Oh, it was number 1.
In 2016, 2017.
So if that's the case, this is actually good to know that we're 150. So good. We have some time.
We have a lot of time, I think. Yeah. At least a couple months, at least.
I'm thinking it's around a year. I'm thinking end of 2024, 2025. I already talked to Carlos today, and we'll talk a little bit. We should actually discuss, but we're going to be out. I mean, besides maybe keeping a little tiny bit just for the big what if in 20 years, I'm basically out of crypto, like just gone.
Like everything?
All the miners, all the Ethereum, everything gone. Because we're getting older, first of all. So the next halving is 4 years away. And I don't want to wait 4 more years to enjoy life. I just rather enjoy it. So I think me and Carlos will do pretty well, and we don't need to milk every single penny out of it.
That's fair. I mean, you know your exit strategy. That's the most important thing. You are defined. Most people have no idea, and then they end up selling super low, right?
Which gives us the chance, by the way, Carlos, to buy Tesla if it's still fucked. So,
oh yeah. Oh no, I got plans with that. I got a pretty decent shares. I think what I would do is I would go a little heavier on call options for Tesla.
What I'm saying, as it's tanking, I think Tesla will tank for a while here.
These call options are getting ridiculously cheap. So that's probably what I would do. Or I might actually, depending on where we are in the run, I might actually just double down on some of the miners. I don't think people understand the miners are going to do what shitcoins do, what altcoins do.
Okay, no, we have to talk about this. Everyone's asking, why are the miners down even though Bitcoin's ripping? What is the explanation? Vitaly, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, I actually posted to somebody for several reasons. One, the miners ran, at least CleanSpark, what I'm involved in, ran from
65%.
Well, it was like $1.65 a year and a half ago, something like $2, and it ran to $24, and now it's at 16, and people consider that a drop. Like, are you crazy? So I think that's what happens. You get pullbacks. Look, even along the way, there was pullbacks, even when it ran, like you're showing the chart right now. So that's number one. Number two is I do think there is some expectation that the miners will just produce less Bitcoin. So I think there's a fight going on. At what point do we push past the high now of like $23, $24 for CleanSpark at least? And the fight is going to win. I believe CleanSpark is going higher because if Bitcoin goes to $100,000, I don't see how CleanSpark is not higher. I just don't see it.
Well, they would know that CleanSpark is holding on to coins that they were making pre-halving.
Well, they're holding on to coins, so those are going to double in price. And plus, they're still like the leader in terms of producing coins. And actually, their revenues are good, right? I think they're growing crazy, especially next quarter is going to be below a quarter, basically. What's next quarter going to be once they show on the books that their Bitcoin is doubled in price in a quarter? Like, what's that going to be?
I think it's also, I think people understand too that like these miners are the kings of dilution, right? And I can see that they're not looking to offload the Bitcoin now, that they would prefer to just raise capital on the capital markets, basically diluting the shit out of people so that they don't have to sell that Bitcoin and realize those gains somewhere later. It's just that's the business model of the miners. That's the way it goes. They're basically like me and Vitaly as freelancers. It's feast or famine. When the going's good, it's really good. When it's not, they have to be financially responsible. They're doing the same thing, but the street doesn't care. The street's going to check them every 2 or 3 months, and they're going to revalue the company, which is fine. Because ultimately, we know that if Bitcoin goes over 100,000, you already know how much money they're making. They won't need to dilute, and they will actually start selling.
Well, I think they're going to dilute anyway because it's basically, imagine your stock 50x's or whatever, or 30x's in a matter of 2 years. You're going to have to dilute. That's going to happen. But if Bitcoin is still going up, I mean, once again, I think Jesse was spot on calling it because he's the one who actually introduced, I think, both of us to the miners, because I've ignored the miners for
all of the world to miners.
I've ignored miners for like a good, 10 years. I've never really paid attention to them.
I did not. I ignored all of that. I was writing
it was all Bitcoin, it was all Ethereum, that's fine, all shit coins, but I never paid attention to actual mine, which is weird. But it's good to see that there is an interesting proxy in the market for Bitcoin. And look, our thesis is Bitcoin is going higher. So I consider my investment semi-safe in the miners if the thesis of Bitcoin is that it is going higher.
Yeah, Bitcoin doesn't go higher, crazy. The miners are fucked. The miners are fucked.
They're totally done. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But they're going back to $1. Absolutely.
Right. But if you're not, at least for me, I'm trying to stay more in options in the miners for that reason than holding the shares, right?
I'm doing both.
I'm not too, but I expect to offload. I expect to offload those shares because they're going to have a winter. You know, when Bitcoin goes down, they're going to have a winter, and then we start rebuilding again. I'll probably play it differently for the next halving, and there will be a point where I actually think that the miners are going to be a better bet. It might actually be the next halving. And by the next halving, when we go from 3 to like 1.5 Bitcoin, I don't know that you're going to see these massive bull runs in crypto anymore. I think it's going to be more about the proxy plays. And that's where I would agree with KRIS that the next halving, I'm going to hold some Bitcoin going into it, but I think I'm going to be much heavier on the miners.
Well, eventually this price has to stabilize for Bitcoin, so it truly becomes this like thing that's boring, that's just like there that everyone can use. But the question is, when does it stabilize? Do you have any thoughts on
how long did gold take to stabilize? 20 years?
I actually don't know. I don't know.
I'm saying since the ETF was released.
Yeah, but
gold took a while.
It does, but gold was not as structured financially. Like there's a ton of gold that's produced every single year.
I mean, my point being that if this is replacing the hard asset of gold, gold probably took a decade or more, maybe 15, 20 years even to stabilize. 8 years, somebody said. So a decade. I say we still have at least a decade of complete volatility and insanity, honestly. At least that.
I would say, let me see if I can.
And Bitcoin, in my opinion, if we're to look out into the future, let's say it goes up to some lofty figure, 150, 200, whatever. Let's say it does that actually. It's going back to $50,000. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you
Wait,
look
why?
at the rainbow
Why wouldn't
chart,
it go down to like 80 this time? Why would it go?
well,
like,
once again, the rainbow chart means something to me. Like there's certain technical indicators that mean something. It looks like around 50,000 is like under or around fair value. And Bitcoin likes to go around that I forgot, what is it, blue? What is the color that we're going to? You know, down.
We're going to red.
All I see is green right now.
Red is.
Oh, is it red? Is it red undervalued?
Red is overvalued.
No, the undervalued. The undervalued.
Oh, blue. It's all just like dark.
So meaning like it's been doing that for the last 3-4 cycles. And once again, once a pattern gets established, I know you're saying it's voodoo, but if everybody's looking at that pattern, that voodoo sort of comes true, right? So even now it went to 15K. And I mean, luckily I was buying, but on my plan was it was going to like 12. And I had a much bigger buy at like 12. So everybody was waiting for that. And once again, like if everybody's waiting for something, you know, Bitcoin's not going to do that. That's not going to happen.
Marco saying 80K will be the absolute next bottom. That's not necessarily true.
I don't believe that.
If you look at where we bottomed out right now, we bottomed out at the $15,000 range, which is just shy of the.
It was actually 14, I think. I think it was 14 and change.
Might have waked down, but the previous all-time high was 17 or 19,000. That's 19, what in 2017. So there's no such thing as like, oh, there's a floor. This thing could very easily drop back down.
Well, the only thing about this massive fall is that institutions weren't involved all the other times, so they're not.
Who do you think is going to be selling? Who do you think is selling at 150,000? You think it's me and affecting the market?
You think the people that buy the Bitcoin ETFs would sell it, and that would cause the institution, the Larry Fink.
I'm not saying retail guys in this chat are going to move anything. I'm saying the big guys know at 150, 200,000, they better start offloading this junk.
Well, but here's the thing. When you say big guys do that, BlackRock can't just sell it to sell it. They have to have outflows from the ETF. So
I understand.
The big guys. No. So my point is the big guys have to be like an Apple that takes $1 billion off their balance sheet, buys it at this price. And then look, if it gets to 200,000,
there's hedge funds involved. Look, first of all, BlackRock does have big investors. Those are the whales. I'm talking about the whales. Even in crypto, there are whales. You understand that, right? People have been holding Bitcoin and trading it up and down for the last decade. They're still moving this market. I don't know who wants to believe they're not. It's not all ETFs. It's the hedge funds who have been there for a long time, and the whales who have been affecting this market and tanking on all of us and buying it back and tanking on all of us. They've been totally manipulating it up and down. And they're going to keep doing that for a while.
The hedge funds have recently bought the ETF, or are you saying hedge funds have owned Bitcoin for the past couple of years? Because
I'm sure plenty of hedge funds have. Yeah, why not? Not every hedge fund has these certain rules not to buy Bitcoin. And you could buy GBTC for, I don't know how long it's been out. How long has GBTC been out?
Like a year and a half, I think.
No, maybe longer than that. Way longer than that. And in fact, Grayscale itself has been around at least since the last halving, at least since that. So that's at least 4 years. So I think there's a lot of big players out there with a lot of money. Basically, whales gonna push this market around still. It's not going to be me.
I agree. You're right. But the thing is, look, if they sell it, like if it gets to 150, 200, even 100, I think all three of us here and a lot of people in the chat would recognize that that's a life-changing amount of money to sell at. And I think the big guys would as well, right?
Yeah. I think everyone thinks like, oh my God, they'll never sell it. Of course they will. Like that's their whole job is to make money, to dump it, to buy it back when it's cheap, or ride it up again and dump it again. That's the easiest thing they can do. Traders love this shit. So I don't think this, guys, is going to be volatile. I don't care what anyone says. This is going to be extremely volatile, and we're probably going back to 50K at some point. So if you think you missed it, I don't know if you did. Honestly, I think we'll be back here. You're going to fucking regret, though, watching it go to 150 that you're not a part of it, but it'll probably be back at 50K.
Well, there is some credence to what AMIT is saying, that yes, the ETFs can't sell unless that they get the outflows. But keep in mind, this now opens up the doors for institutions to actually just hold it on their balance sheet.
I know we keep saying that, but look, okay, so the halving is happening now. Do you understand? So we have a year for all of this to all these big companies like Apple to come in. Like I'm selling. Like that's it. It's going up to 100, 150. I'm out. So is Apple going to be in it? Is Apple trying to buy at the top at 150,000 a Bitcoin?
No,
I don't know about that.
What I'm saying is
honestly,
that
I don't think that that's stupid.
Now the door is open for these companies to hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet, especially in these inflationary, with the inflation rates the way that they are, to hold it on their balance sheet as something that they can see as to store some of the value or even make some money. The thing is with the Bitcoin, those Bitcoin crashes, it doesn't take much to start a cascade effect. Do you know what I'm saying? We saw Bitcoin go from 25,000 to was it 34,000 in like a day. It went up like $9 grand in a day. And it was like, oh my God, it doesn't actually take much to do that. So if you've got this house of cards, we're sitting at $150,000, and if just we get enough of a price action within a certain day, that's enough to trigger FOMO on the downside too, and could cause just a cascade of sells, which
or on the upside, a big buy comes in, takes it to 175.
It's the same deal. So even if they don't sell, it doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of institutions aside from the ETFs, as well as just large wallet holders. You know, there's a lot of whales out there. There's a lot of whales that accumulated this thing in the hundreds of dollars, and they're sitting on.
I know.
See right now.
I know we're talking. I just want to make one point. Okay, me and Carlos have been watching this for a long time, and our only regret is not selling. Okay, at 70,000 last time, not selling all of it. Okay, that's the regret here. So my point being, as it goes up, have a plan, follow that plan, even if you think you can make more money by always keeping it, because that's what we were trying to do.
Well, here's my question: we're at the same price you guys had your initial regrets back in 2021. Why don't you
but
not
it's now 3-4 years later. It's a different. We're in a different state now. You have to get accustomed to the new environment. It's not the same thing anymore, right? So
and
so
also
you have no regrets anymore. You have no pressure to sell right now, and not.
I have no pressure. I don't feel any pressure to sell, because last time it was post halving. We'd already seen it run up in February, then in May, and then we saw it run up again in November. And yeah, I could have pulled out the cash, and I probably should have. Looking back, that was the right move to do, because that was before 80% of all the dollars that were ever printed were printed. You understand? So now, even if I sell it at the same amount, I've devalued my own gains by 15%, which puts even more pressure on my portfolio. The difference is, though, we were talking about selling on a downturn. This is an upturn. It's very different when you're seeing this price on the way up versus on the way down. Right. When we saw the 69K or whatever that last time, it was trying to top out. It's like an engine that was just revving really hard. And it was, but here with the introduction of the ETFs, you're seeing that this is different. This is a ramp up. And so, no, I think you'd be an idiot to sell any Bitcoin right now before the halving. If it breaks 100,000 before the halving, I am going to take some. I'm absolutely going to pull up.
Well, at 100,000 is when, at least I've decided, I think you have to start selling a part of our portfolio. And the thing is, I talked to my brother who didn't sell at all. I did, by the way, on the way down. So I started selling at 42,000 or something on the way down. And look, it's back over 60 now, right?
Did you buy back?
I did.
You buy those coins back?
I didn't buy all of it back, but I did buy back. Yes. Okay. So because under 20, I started accumulating again, 20 to 15. But anyway, so I've been talking to my brother, and I'm like, well, you know, like, I hope this time you sell your Bitcoin, because like last time, all you did was ride it up and you rode it all the way back down. I'm like, don't you want to live your life? He's also getting older. And I'm talking about the older people here who are listening, who are not 20 years old, who can withstand the next 10, 20 years of Bitcoin volatility. I think when I'm in my 50s, which is happening probably in 4 years or so, I don't want to be in this. I don't want to be dealing with it. I'm not saying I won't buy back in when Bitcoin is again 50 grand, but by then I'll have way more cash because I sold out at the, getting up to the top there. So I just don't want to be dealing with it. And I've been in crypto long enough where I feel like I should enjoy life now and not always look at my tokens in my crypto wallet, just sitting there. At a certain point, that's useless. So I hope people at least learn from at least my experience, that it's okay if you don't have all of the coins. It's okay if you don't have all of that as you go into the next one. So I think it's worse, at least for me. I'm not, you can talk about yourself, that holding it up and down several times has like worn me out.
For sure. Because it's like talking opportunity cost. You start asking yourself, what's the opportunity cost of having had that money the last 3 or 4 years? It's been really rough.
Well, it's still, no, I think it's still better just as an investment.
Sure, but I'm saying my last 3 years would have looked way different, and I probably would have been able to amplify the position and set myself up a little differently had I have sold. But it was also, as much as you learn about this stuff, as the asset class grows, there's more to learn. There's certain charts, certain relationships between certain indicators that I just was not as versed on as I am now. So now I feel like I've got several indicators out there that if 2 or 3 of them converge and let me know that we're looking really toppy, then that will give me the confidence to sell that I didn't have before.
What indicators?
Like I said, cryptos, Bitcoin's percentage of total market cap, and the ETH Bitcoin. Once we get to that 60, which right now we're at 54. So once we get to 60 and Bitcoin is basically, you know, a 0.6 or whatever it is compared to Ethereum, then I know, okay, it's time to, and we see the total market, we see Bitcoin's price going up and we see the total market cap stay the same, then you know that people are converting Ethereum into Bitcoin. It's that movement. It's that price action. When I start to see certain indicators like that, then I'll know we're topping out. Rainbow chart is another one. So looking at those indicators together, and I won't feel as gun shy about selling, because I'm like, look, all the indicators are telling me that we're getting peak froth here. You know, a combination of your other factors too, your moving averages as well as your RSI. And then there's a macro. And this goes to what D is saying. 634, 100K is only 30% away. Why be so arbitrary on this number? Because Bitcoin operates that way. There are psychological barriers set up in the price action. So the next one people are looking at is this asset class is now for the first time in 6 digits. There is going to be a massive freaking sell wall going into 100,000. So I feel if we start running up and you start getting the narrative, you know, you start hearing the narrative that's trying to get everyone to FOMO in and buy, then that's what that is.
Well, D, I want to point out that at 100K, we've made a good amount of money. I don't need to hold it absolutely till the very tippy top. Like at some point you have to take some profits off the table. That was what we were discussing. So we're not probably selling all of it, but we're definitely starting to liquidate.
But what if it's like 85-ish? You don't think the pressure is going to start? And what if we stagnate around that 85 range and like you kind of get scared, maybe it's going to collapse down? You know, just like natural human nature takes over. You feel like 100, you're dead set that that's your exit. As in, that's why the comment is it's an arbitrary number. Like, where are you getting?
Well, you need to, okay, first of all, you need to have a plan. So that's the initial plan is 100K, a certain percentage, maybe 25%.
But why 100K? Why? That's my question.
Well, we've been waiting this already for like at least 5 years.
You just want to see that number.
Like we've literally been waiting for 100K for a long time, maybe 8 years now. Like honestly, we've been talking about 100K.
So it's literally arbitrary. That's what she's saying, or he said.
Yeah, but there are psychological barriers. Like 70,000 didn't break last time, and now we have to see if it actually breaks.
You see, like its peak price was 60.
Dude, above 70,
69,900. Right?
Like
why?
There are psychological barriers, and these numbers, these round numbers, like S&P 5,000, a barrier. We broke it, right? It's the same thing. Humans are behind all of this trading, by the way. So at the end of the day, it's not all robots, unfortunately. Unfortunately, so humans still want those round numbers.
So yeah, if you see Palantir getting close to $30, you don't think that the price action between $29 and $31 in Palantir would be?
No, 100%. I agree with you guys. I'm just saying if it's at 87,000, you won't feel like. I get your point about 100.
Oh, you're asking if I personally will feel any pressure to sell.
Well, I'll give you a scenario. If we are in January 2025 and we are at $80,000, I think that's a different story. That's a scary time. That's like we have to make a decision, like because I don't know how long the crypto bubble can continue until it pops.
That's gonna be hilarious. Dude.
Right, if it gets 170.
That is possible, by the way. That's exactly possible. But this is why we've been DCAing for so long that, you know, once again, if it goes back down and we have to go through another cycle, it'll happen and I'm going to have to live through it again, but I'm not willing to sell at 70K.
The difference is, though, that the actual asset class itself has rules built in that force the price to go up. So this is where you, like, if we say that if we're at 80,000 next year, then we're at 80,000 after 10 months of half the supply than what we have at today's levels. And it seems like the ETFs have what, $10 billion in now. It seems like that next 10 billion is going to come even easier now. So how is Bitcoin? You tell me how Bitcoin's going to absorb, say, $10 billion 4 or 5 more times in the course of this next year and stay at $80,000 when there's going to be half of the.
There would have to be a lot of sellers.
They'd have to be twice as many sellers because they've got to unload. They've got to account for the reduced, like they've got to account for the reduced mining reward. So every day, 900 Bitcoins are coming out, which are diluting the total supply. That's happening. It's diluting us 900 Bitcoins a day. That's going to go to 450. So how much selling do you need to equal the dilution of 450 Bitcoin per day plus absorb all of that buying from the ETFs? I just see it as a mathematical impossibility for us to be 80 grand. But to Vitaly's point, if we're there, then I have to look at that like a call option where I'm losing a lot of theta decay, because now that's another year of inflation, right? Another year I'm paying my own bills and more limited upside. At that point, yeah, I'd probably be out of my position. And I would say, well, that's it. It's another fail top. We lost a boner. We got to wait and then eat it up.
So yeah, if 70K tops out now, yes, the thesis is broken. Absolutely. Somebody said that. Yeah. And there's nothing I can do about it. And that's just the way it went. But that's also, this is also a good divergence to another subject. That's why I don't have all my money in Bitcoin. Yes, we have a lot. Don't get me wrong. We have enough that it hurts a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
But Bitcoin itself will not wipe me out,
Okay, I want to play this quick clip by Saylor. I think everyone should take a listen to this. This is 6 minutes of him talking about the current state of crypto. It was a really good lecture over the weekend.
I just want to point out, you keep talking about Saylor. I just want to point out, while I was buying when it was dropping to 15K, Saylor was not buying. He was not doing that.
Saylor has changed.
He was going to get margin called.
He was going to. I thought Saylor was going to call the crypto bottom, by the way. I literally thought Saylor going bankrupt or having to sell Bitcoin was going to be the crypto bottom. That was my thesis. I think my thesis will still hold, but it'll just be the next cycle.
Yeah. Okay. Here's Saylor on the crypto current state we are.
I think that we're in the Bitcoin gold rush era. And it started in January of 2024, and it will run till about November of 2034. It's a 10-year. And the reason how many people know what happened in November of 2034? It's an important date, if you pull Clark Moody's dashboard, you'll see that. In November of 2034, 99% of all the Bitcoin will have been mined. And the last 1% comes out over the next 100 years. So for all practical purposes, stock to flow becomes irrelevant. The stock to flow ratio of Bitcoin is infinity in 2034. It's within the tolerance of just random hourly trading of the asset. So it becomes noise. And so you have about 42 quarters, somewhere between 40 and 42 quarters. And if you look at that 40-quarter period, at the beginning of the gold rush, no bank could custody Bitcoin, no institutional investor could buy Bitcoin, no Wall Street trading firm, no investment company could handle Bitcoin. And it was unclear whether that ever would happen. That was a binary. And when those spot ETFs were approved, that created a fire or an avalanche. The genie's out of the bottle. It doesn't matter who's elected president next. It doesn't matter who's the next head of the SEC. It doesn't matter. And no politician's opinion, no banker opinion, no regulator opinion matters after that date. That was the most consequential thing that kicked off the gold rush. Now, as of the first quarter of this year, which is we're in now, right? February 29th, March 1st. What's the date? I get my dates messed up in leap years.
It's like I just had a hit.
But, every single institutional investor would have looked at this and said, Bitcoin interesting, but I can't buy it. Everybody. And so you have 99% of the money in the world that has been unable to buy and so unwilling to consider things. Institutional investors are like this. Like they could watch your company and have a million opinions but don't really care. And you could go to them on a Tuesday morning and say, do you want to buy $50 million worth of this security? And they'll then look at it and they'll give you an answer by 4 p.m. So when they can buy via their bank, their institutional wirehouse, their prime broker, they will make a $50 million decision in 1 hour. And they will watch you and cheer for you or laugh at you for 20 years when they can't buy. So we flipped a switch in January. What you've got is 40 quarters of people getting educated, and here's what happens next. All those ETFs, they're only distributed through 20% of the distribution channel right now. They're maybe even 10%. So that distribution is going to go from 10% to 20 to 40 to 60 to 80. And there'll be a point at which all the investors can buy. And, I had to fill out, you have to fill out 3 waivers from 3 different accounts, as of a few weeks ago. So you're going to see resistance drop. You're going to see all the major banks add support. Then the next question is, well, is it creditworthy? Can I borrow against the asset? No major bank in the world will give you a loan against those ETFs yet. They've all got clocks that are running after 30 days, after 90 days, after 6 months, after a year. So first they let you buy it, then they loan you money against it. None of those instruments can you trade options on. You can't buy or sell puts and calls on a spot ETF. That'll be a year. So what you're going to see is it'll take years for the distribution to open up, for the credit capillaries to work, for the volatility trading to kick in, for the hedging to kick in. Then you'll actually see all the big banks that don't like Bitcoin getting pressured. Like, now we have to custody it because our biggest customer wants us to. So right now you can't custody, but there's a big battle afoot on Capitol Hill. That battle will take place. Bitcoin will win that battle. Then you'll see banks custody. Then you'll see 1. Then you'll see 10. Then you'll see 100. Then you'll see 1,000. And likewise, there's famous analysts. You can name the analysts that cover Bitcoin today. Len Alden, Chris Kuiper, right? Yeah.
We're not going to watch the whole thing, are we?
Right. There'll be a day.
It's like 1 more minute, and it's over.
When there'll be
AMIT can't stop. He loves them.
Do it at 2x.
Right? There'll be a day when Bitcoin ETFs have already blasted past gold.
Is that 2034 he's talking about?
Trade more than the S&P index ETFs. And there'll be a day, I believe, when Bitcoin ETFs will have more capital than SPY or the S&P index. And on that day, the people at Vanguard will say, oops, I guess all the money just shifted out of equity.
All the money's out of equities.
Well, he's not wrong. He's just on such a long freaking
50 years
time frame that you're like, for me, a guy in their 40s, I'm like, great. I'll make sure to let my kids know. When
we reach the top when Saylor's selling at 150. Like, I'm calling it right now. He's not selling all of it. I bet you anything. I bet you he takes some profits.
Either everyone's going to be crazy thinking we're seeing 6 digits and this is the top very soon, or we're blasting through and we're getting to 6 digits. It's one or the other, I feel like.
Well, if this is the top, it's 70K. If this is the top, it's disappointing. Let me put it this way. Extremely disappointing.
Like, if it falls to 40K, would you guys panic sell, or would you buy more? Like, how do you?
No, I'm not selling until 100K. I ain't selling. I ain't leaving.
Okay, what if it goes to 40K? What if it goes to 40K in the next 2 weeks?
It doesn't matter.
You won't sell.
If it drops down, I would probably just continue DCAing and maybe unload a little bit more. This is an asset that below $100,000, I see it as accumulation. Over 100, I'm going to get rid of my cost basis. I'm basically gonna double my cost basis, and then after that, will relieve any built up tension that I have to sell some, and then I can just watch it do what it's got to do.
Okay. So let's talk about, we did a lot on Bitcoin. Chris just woke up, so now everyone knows why he's late.
Oh, by the way, NVIDIA, you have that there. NVIDIA, think about this. Bitcoin was the only thing that could change the narrative from AI. We're not talking about AI. We haven't been talking about AI. I mean, NVIDIA is still fucking rocket shipping.
Yeah.
But it's just not in control of the narrative anymore.
Why are you laughing?
Going back to sleep.
Because he doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to talk.
Thank God.
Okay, let's talk about Tesla. VITALY paper handed this. I bought his stupid shares that he sold.
I paper handed 20Xs.
He paper handed this Tesla. I bought his shares. So
You bought
what's going on? Why is it down 7? Well, they cut prices in China today. That's why it's down. But what do you think about Tesla right now? Vitaly, let's start with you.
I mean, we talked about it. I think Tesla's overvalued for what they are doing right now. You have to believe a lot of future things to be happening and to be priced in. Robotics, FSD coming out, version 12 is ready. All of that stuff, a new factory being built, which we know now is delayed for a couple of years, right? They're not doing that as fast as we thought it was. So like all of these things are going to take way longer just because engineering is hard. And in the meantime, I didn't want to sit with, I literally had 35% of my portfolio in Tesla. I was like, this is too much to hold for another like year or two while it just trades sideways, while crypto goes crazy, while Amazon goes crazy. So I was like, all right, let me cut out 10%. And that's what I did.
Okay, Carlos, your perspective on Tesla right now?
I don't think that any of these analysts that are saying Tesla dropped because they lowered prices or, in China, this, that, I don't think any of them have a truly effective model to value the company. You have to look at them as like a startup. Honestly, it's very hard to value a startup because there's so many
$600 billion startup.
They are. The car business in a few years will be eclipsed by the energy division. And I think that's going to be a real turning point for people where they go, holy shit, they're making more money. We're focusing all on these cars. And these are not long bets. This is not the bot. This is not Dojo. This is not FSD. This is what they're doing right now. They're basically packaging up the same batteries they're putting in cars, putting a couple of inverters on them and selling them at boatloads of cash. And so I think we're in a period now where only people that know Tesla in the same way that like you would know Palantir or the way like Tanner would know SoFi, those people have a really great indication of how the company's going to be doing. And on top of that, if you are one of the richest men in the world and you buy a platform that is disrupting a lot of the prevailing narrative in an election year, you have to expect a bunch of fucking FUD.
Yeah.
So this is all keeping it down because you know that if the media chose to paint the information that comes out on Tesla in a different light, the stock would be at $300. So it's a narrative. It's all narrative.
I don't know. I think Wall Street buys based on expectations and sells based on expectations. So I think that the expectation is that Q2 won't be great. Maybe Q3 won't be great. And then the turnaround happens sometime towards the end of the year. And I think that's playing out. I don't know if that's so far-fetched that Wall Street doesn't want to be in a stock for 6 months while they could be buying fucking Ethereum calls or whatever they're buying.
Just one thing. Just take the price cuts, right? If the narrative, if the media narrative wasn't Tesla slashing prices because no one's buying, if they were correctly reporting Tesla has initiated a price war by voluntarily compressing their margins to move volumes, setting themselves up for future monetization. The knock-on effect, this is an article that we're reading, the knock-on effect of that is that it has crushed their competitors already either negative or slightly positive margins, right? And basically they're being prevented from being able to scale, which is what they need to be able to get their costs down. If it was being reported as a genius move by Tesla, and then the lowered numbers in Q2 were saying that's industry wide, that has more to do with macro than it does Tesla. Tesla is still selling into this market and they have margin that they can play with to move volumes. If that was the narrative, Wall Street would not be discounted.
I think you're right. It's like a growth company that's not profitable, but the street knows they're sacrificing profits
on the way.
Growth. It's a whole different.
They are
it's
profitable.
Like him. No, I know, but I'm saying what Carlos is saying,
it's like Hims.
Company.
That's excellent. I've bought Hims.
No. My point is, Carlos is basically saying Hims kept telling investors, "Hey, we're growing like crazy. Like it's okay if we're not profitable."
Give me a minute.
They aren't profitable, right? So the narrative Hims made was enough to get those initial investors. So Carlos is saying they have to have a totally different narrative with Tesla, because otherwise it's just margins are going down, which is not good for a $600 billion company.
Well, no. So
yes,
the narrative.
I'm sorry.
The narrative does have to change. And look, all these things are happening. Like energy is going to be a massive business. Absolutely. Like, first of all, now everybody's using the NACS adapter. They've all basically succumbed to Tesla. I don't know if you heard the latest news, but everybody's basically there. Stellantis and everybody, they're all using that. That means they're all going to be charging on Tesla's network. So how many car companies actually have an Exxon in their back pocket? Like, how many companies, honestly? People have told me Rivian, they have 3 fucking chargers. Okay. So there's not many companies in the position Tesla's in to monopolize this whole industry. Absolutely 100%. does not mean that this year they're going to do well. Just does not mean that. It's still going to take a long time, at least a year, okay, if that's a long time, to play out. And in the meantime, Carlos, there was an opportunity cost. And by the way, people are asking when I sold. I actually sold most of it at 250 because I saw what was happening, that Tesla was tanking, that their numbers were going bad. So I actually sold that 15% of the portfolio that I had during that time. And then I sold a little bit more, but really it was that big 250 dump that I did a while back. Anyway, so look, Chris gets, he's like, oh, they're talking about Tesla tanking. I got to get in here. So let me just finish this, Chris. So basically, that's why I sold earlier. I was like, I saw the writing on the wall that Tesla's going down, and I saw Ethereum also going up, and I saw Bitcoin going up, and I saw Amazon chart fucking around about to skyrocket. And I was like, look, I don't have infinite money. I have to do something, and I don't want to be 30% in Tesla. That's it. As simple as that. I'm still 20% in Tesla, which is still a lot considering my portfolio, but I just didn't want to have all that exposure considering all these other things I wanted to be in.
It's probably a safe bet. I mean, it's going to be a safe
and I'm actually very happy with my decision because Ethereum has doubled basically since I started buying it. Bitcoin has doubled basically. Amazon is not doubling every day, of course, but it's moving up. It's moving in the right direction, you know?
Yeah, got to move the money where it grows. You got to move the money where it's growing. There's only so
Google
much.
Might be next.
Lulu?
Google,
right, Chris,
Google might be next in order to get Ethereum.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of times we're looking for these boogeymen out there. Like, how come Tesla's down? Blah blah. A lot of it, and you guys know this. I've said this at least half a dozen times. It's credit, man. You cannot have a high dollar item be there on the consumer side, and then you don't have the credit availability. We have a tight credit market, and that's just not just for Tesla, but for all the auto manufacturers. Like when you go to the dealership right now, some of the dealerships are bringing back 0 APR, really low APR. Tesla is not doing that. The consumer at the end of the day, when they go and they try to buy a Tesla and they see that giant monthly payment, that's just going to turn them off. So that's one of the main problems right now. It's like you have a really tight credit market. And then there's all these other little things that like you guys said, the Chinese competition with BYD. BYD really is killing it out there. You know, they are continuously lowering prices and hammering Tesla and its margins. You know, when we started this,
that's not true. They're not making as much money per vehicle and they're also selling vehicles at a much lower price point that Tesla has yet to enter.
Okay, Carlos, if your competition is lowering prices and they're selling, then you have to lower prices. The market is what dictates what price your car ends up being. You can't just say, you know what, I am going to price my car at a high value and just leave it there. Your competition gets a say in what your prices are. I hope you know that.
You're right. And what I'm saying is that the Tesla was the initial mover in this. Tesla was the one that initiated this war by compressing their margins from high double digits. Like they were in the 20s and they started to lower their margins. BYD is selling cars. They can sell cars for $11,000, $12,000. Tesla cannot price a Model S to compete with a car in the $10,000 or $11,000 price range. They can't.
Exactly. That's the point that I'm trying to make. That's why Tesla is not the greatest investment when it comes right now.
What I'm saying is in the markets that they compete with, they sell more units. But what we've seen is that people want to buy Teslas more than they want to buy EVs. That's how it is. Maybe it's different in China, but that's what people are showing. They want to buy Teslas more than they want to buy EVs. This conversation will be apples to apples when the next gen vehicle comes out and Tesla has one in that same price point. Then we're going to see if consumers would rather buy the BYD or the Tesla at the same price point. Because in the Model Y space, we know that they're winning that. Not enough data on the trucks just yet. And and the same thing with the revamped Model 3. So it's not apples to apples just yet. BYD needs to sell 3 vehicles or 2 vehicles to make the same profit revenue that Tesla makes selling one.
But here's Carlos, once again, just because BYD needs to do this, Tesla needs to do that. Like what you don't realize is that you're literally answering your own question. Okay. If you have a commoditized product, I mean, at some point, the valuation between the two products is going to start to blur. The lines are going to are going to start to get blurry. Okay. BYD, maybe not it because the US is very walled garden. Like they're not really going to let them in. But in other parts of the world, but the other parts of the world, a lot of people are, look, if I can get a BYD for 12,000, I don't need all these extra features that come in a Tesla or whatever, right? So all I'm saying is the competition is setting the prices, and Tesla has to live with that. And that's what I'm saying, that you can't base your investing just on, okay, yeah, you know what, I really like Tesla, so that means that all the consumers are going to like it.
Tesla is setting the prices. BYD is not selling prices. BYD is reacting to Tesla's price cuts to be able to capture those sales.
I don't think so, man. I don't think so, dude.
That's just completely
so you think when Elon Musk and Tesla lower prices, BYD is like, man, we need to compete against them and lower our prices too. Like, no, dude, it's the other way around, man.
Absolutely.
It's the other way around.
So I just want to, let me add a little bit in. Amit, you didn't have to switch the positions. I kind of liked it that way.
I just realized I was like, this is kind of weird.
Okay, one, Chris, nobody's going to the shop and being like, you know what, I can get that Bolt or I can get the Tesla. Which one do I buy? They're not doing that. Not today. Hold on. They're not doing that today. Okay. What's happening is what you were correct on, I think, a year and a half ago, 2 years, whatever it happened, is that the rates did kill basically car buying because nobody wants to pay high amounts of money. That's what is affecting these prices. Absolutely 100%. It is not BYD, which is only in China, from what I know at this point, selling their cars. And yes, Tesla sells cars in China. BYD sells cars, but Tesla's selling everywhere, and they're having the same issue all over the world. So it's not a BYD issue. It is strictly a rate issue, which you were right about. So I'm not sure why you're flipping your thing. You're changing your thesis here.
I'm not changing.
Nobody's deciding between the two cars right now until Tesla releases a $25,000 vehicle. Then they'll be deciding between the two cars.
I think you guys are you guys are only looking at it from like a U.S. perspective right now. BYD is effectively competing in a lot of places, in China, in Australia, in some of the OECD countries. Like, I'm telling you, just do some research. You'll see BYD and a lot of these Chinese manufacturers that are backed by the Chinese government, they're they're like subsidizing the crap out of the cars, and because of that, they are out there, man. I'm telling you, it's
what you're doing is you're making the same case that Rivian and Ford owners said, like, look how many trucks they're selling. They're outselling Tesla when the Cybertruck was not even available yet. They're saying, look how many more sales it's getting than the Model S or the Model X, because they're like similar price points. But it's like the customer that wants a pickup truck only has the Rivian, the Hummer, and the F-150. They're not going to be looking at a Model X, even if it's the same price, saying, let me pick up that one. I can make it work. It doesn't work that way. You have to have a vehicle in the same category to call them apples to apples. And by the way, while you're saying that, the Model Y was the #1 selling vehicle in the world last year. So it's hard to compete with that metric and say, when even in this credit environment, imagine how many more it would have sold if rates weren't at 5, 6, 7, 8%.
I mean, look at our comments section. Okay, just look at some of the stuff that's being said. Okay, one person said BYD selling car lots while Tesla selling to customers, right? BYD margins are trash. Of course, we understand that. Someone from Singapore said, what did they say? Oh, I see 15 BYDs to every Tesla in Thailand, right? Even though Thailand's probably a very small market.
How many bikes do they see to Teslas?
Say that again?
How many bikes do they see to Teslas?
That's not the point, man.
Yes, it is the point.
You need to stop looking down on these countries like there's some poor third world countries that can't afford these cars, man.
He's calling me a racist.
I'm telling you, I'm not calling you a racist. I'm just saying you're making this false equivalence just to justify your love for Tesla. The world right now is bigger than just the United States, where Tesla's biggest market is. Their #2 market is China, but even in China, you're starting to see a crap ton of EVs come in, and majority of them are coming from domestic manufacturers, and the domestic manufacturers are putting up price points that Tesla has to effectively compete in. I mean, China is Tesla's second largest market, right? Which means that any impact that is going to happen in terms of pricing is going to impact Tesla overall. I'm not saying that Tesla can't come up and create a $25,000 car and that somehow ends up, returning them to profitability.
That's not it. That's not if. We know they're working on it. We know that it's going to come out of Texas. They talked about that they're going to announce it this year. Like, these are things that are right about to happen. In the same way that people were like, but the Cybertruck's not out yet. It's fucking out now. Okay. The truck is out now. They said it was going to happen. It was later than they expected, and now it's out. Same thing with this vehicle. They're just not saying anything because they don't want people to not, they don't want to cannibalize Model 3 and Model Y sales. So my guess is that they're going to announce it very close to when they can start shipping these things so that they're not, they don't have that gap. The other thing is, okay, you see 15 BYDs per Tesla. Let's just make it even. If BYD makes $1,000 per car, let's just say, that's the last time I checked, they're making about $1,000 per car. So if they sell 5 vehicles, they're going to make $5,000. If Tesla sells one Model Y and makes $5,000 off that one Model Y, both companies make the same amount of money, which is a better investment. Do you want the company that's making $1,000 selling 5 vehicles, or do you want the company that's selling one product making 5 off each customer?
Carlos, it doesn't. You're okay. You're okay. Here's the thing. You're thinking of this as either buy BYD or buy Tesla. I'm saying don't buy either because you are in a competitive problem. Like if you look at Peter Thiel with 0 to 1, they very much tell you that you do not want to be in a business where all the margins are being competed away. That is what we're dealing with right now. You're seeing competition come in and drive Tesla's margins down, down, and down. And the key here is going to be, what is the biggest differentiator between Tesla and some of these other guys? I think that there's possibilities that the energy business, like someone said, I don't know who it was, that could be something that becomes a big thing. I also think the charging network is a big moat that eventually could, translate into much higher revenues. So I think there's definitely a case to be made for Tesla long term. All I'm saying is right now, majority of their revenues are coming from the autos, which the margins are compressing by the month. So I say right now, Tesla, just like VITALY said, is somewhat overvalued. I think
I wasn't arguing to buy it right now. Just FYI, yeah. I was not.
No, I know. I know you were.
I don't think anyone should be. Well, not anyone, but DCAing, that's fine. But realize that we're in a precarious situation this year. Absolutely.
And I also think you're making counterpoints. You're making conflicting or contradictory points. You're saying that everything that we're seeing now industry-wide has to do with interest rates. And that's what I think is happening. This compression, and again, I can't stress this enough, this compression of margins was a voluntary decision that Tesla made to move volumes. They wanted to continue moving volumes. They responded to a credit condition. They understand that affordability is the issue, and they're trying to do what they can to make the vehicles more affordable. What do you think happens when rates get more relaxed? Do you think BYD benefits from that, or do you think Tesla benefits from that?
Both of them do, but that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so but again, going back to my other question, would you rather buy, which is a better investment, the company that's selling 5 vehicles that they need to make and sell for $1,000 each profit, or the company
you're trying, Carlos, please. I'm trying to argue against buying into any car company right now because the macro conditions and the competitive landscape are getting worse.
And I'm not
You're trying to make it between BYD versus Tesla. I'm telling you, don't buy either. Stay the fuck away from both.
And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not saying that you should be going out and running by. If anything, for me, this is about picking up call options at this point, because I think that you'll get a discount on them. That's not the point. My point is, though, which is a better business? BYD selling 5 vehicles to make $1,000 each, or Tesla selling one Model Y to make $5,000. Same amount of profit.
Let me just put it this way. KRIS is not thinking about the long term here. Okay, he said it's already a good investment to be long term. He's thinking about this year.
But you even said I see the long term case for Tesla. I see the long. Well, then what's going to change between now and then that suddenly
the stock price of Tesla? The stock price of Tesla. That's what's going to change. The opportunity cost of not being in some of these other names. I mean, your boy VITALY did clearly just say, "Listen, I'm starting to see that there's more traction in Amazon because they're doing X, Y, and Z. On Tesla, I don't see them being able to change the macroeconomic condition. So what am I going to do? I'm going to sell, and I'm going to be in the growth part of the market. Why? Because I think the Tesla price.
To be clear, I did not liquidate my portfolio. Okay,
I know, but you did take a good chunk, and you did put it into other investments, which is the right move.
I think none of you guys understand the bot.
I will forever.
The bot is all that matters.
I think honestly, you don't understand the bot. That's why you put probably 20 grand into some startup. That's what you don't understand.
Vitaly's just mad that he didn't get an
Oh, that's
offer
true.
there.
I should have an allocation
No,
with the rest.
I would've-
I barely got my allocation.
I would have hopped
I
in too.
barely got my.
You know, that's fucked up. You could have told the guy I'm putting in 200,000. We would have
The
given
thing
50
he had
each.
to
We would have
do
given 50 each.
We're trying to make you rich.
So in the future, he wants to. We're even thinking of it like setting up a little fund and getting a lot of people into these deals. But he had to fight to get me into. He got messages today of people trying to buy his shares, and the thing already went public. Not public. The thing just had their raise, right? So these are really like coveted shares of this company that might fail. So
that's fine.
He's
We can
gonna
talk
be-
about it another day. It's
5 years,
10-10.
he'll be like
Do you
Galley.
guys still want to argue about Tesla?
He'll be on the board.
Call it a day.
Talking
I'll
about
be on-
I got a hand job from it yesterday. It wasn't great, but I gave my notes.
okay, here's my question. Here's my question. Call options. Why does that make sense if Tesla right now is going to struggle for a bit? Like why does looking out into 2026 when this macroeconomic environment is so weird? Like, as Jesse's all over call options, and I'm kind of like, why is call options on Tesla exciting right now versus just the stock?
For me, the reason why I'm looking at that is just to limit the outflow, the outgoing capital. It's just to amplify the capital. And because I do think that 300, 320, 350, somewhere around there is not out of the question. In 2 years, that's not out of the question. It's about how we get there. Tesla's a stock that doesn't like grow. It doesn't look like Amazon's chart. It's not like this, you know, it's not like a 10-year slow accumulation. It's like, boom, we plateau, then we never see that again. You know what I mean? Like, so I would be hedging for that.
It is a plateau and then a straight up and then a plateau and then a straight up.
And then it drops back down and it's flat. You know what I mean? But
you guys think 2024 is basically a DCA year for Tesla?
From yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, there's only so much space. It's like we were saying before Chris got on. There's only so much freaking air in the room to even have financial conversations. Like, we can't have everything blowing up at once. You know, this Bitcoin thing is taking up a lot of the conversations now. But before that, it was all AI. It was NVIDIA, you know? And so
this is good news, by the way. If you wanted to be in Tesla, right, and you didn't get in way earlier, it's tanking right now, or it's even if it's stabilized, whatever, you have time to accumulate it. And that's good, because if this is the bad news, right? Let's say it gets worse. Like, even to Chris's point, it gets worse and worse. If this is the bad news and this stock is not under $100 right now, which is kind of crazy, it just shows you how much cachet in the narrative is still there, right? That's what it's showing you. The narrative is still there intact, because technically any other car company would be under $100. That's not Tesla, right? So
well, look at, it has been very resilient, because to Chris's point, it should be 150 right now. Where's this $50 coming from?
It'll be $100 right now.
No, that's what I'm saying. But where's this $50 coming from that's holding it up, especially when NVIDIA is running, SMCI is running, when even Palantir is running, when Bitcoin's running? Like, why aren't more people selling out of this stock that we've all agreed is dead money for the year?
You're waiting for Q2.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Why is Enphase still at 129? You know, I don't know.
Enphase had actually some positive news.
They fired Badri. Did he say something stupid on Twitter?
No, I mean, the personality cult around Elon is what keeps the price multiple on Tesla higher than normal. I mean, under any other circumstances, Tesla would have taken a beating. But I mean, you've got the guy that lands rockets. You've got the guy that freaking sends shit to the moon. I mean, you know, as much as I'd like to basically say that, you know, the leadership doesn't matter and everything is just about the competition and international, all that stuff. Yeah, that's true. But there's also a personality cult around certain things. I mean, we look at Palantir and Alex Karp. You know, there's a personality cult there that makes valuation on Palantir higher than unusual, because they just have a charismatic leader. I mean, and we saw that on the downside with Frank Slootman on Snowflake, right? Charismatic leader. Everyone loves the guy. They think that he's a great operator, and then he leaves, the stock drops 20%, you know? So a lot of times there is an impact on total valuation on who the person in charge is, you know? So people will give that company specifically a higher multiple because they've seen that they've been able to execute in the past. So I think Tesla enjoys
60,
that.
60, 70 bucks. You're saying like 60, 70 bucks of that? The price, stock price.
Wouldn't you pay double the cost to be in an Elon company?
Yeah.
Like right now, if he came to you and he said, I need whatever, you'd be like, sure. What's the valuation? Yeah. Whatever. Okay.
You wouldn't even ask about valuation, dude.
If Elon asked you for 50 grand, you go, okay, sure.
The Snowflake example is valid because that guy's not tweeting about Palestinians, and it still dropped 20%, but it was a smaller market cap.
Me and Chris will be doing a podcast, guys, on Snowflake on my channel in 2 days, because Chris has some good DD on that, so we'll be doing that in a couple of days.
So
I'm looking at that
overall,
too. Chris, let me know when you're buying because that's when I'll buy. I do want that
I
one.
already started buying.
Oh, you started DCing?
Oh, 177, Chris. That's when you started.
Yeah.
What's the market cap?
I bought
the charts say under
55.
150, 130, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
55.
Yeah.
5 billion.
Basically there's a huge story behind Snowflake that like we have to go in through a lot of duty, but even on the technical side, the RSI is close to 30. It's never
that's
gotten
good.
below 30. It's never gotten below 30 from what I can see over the last like 3 years. So it's getting close though. So yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. The new CEO is a good guy. He knows what he's doing. There's a strategy behind it. Frank Slootman is still involved in the company. He's going to be the chairman of the board. So it's not like the guy completely left because of some odd reason. So there's a lot to it than that. What I want to
just don't pull a PayPal and be like, I have a game-changing announcement.
no. Actually, one of the reasons why they're
all right, I'm gonna go, guys. See you guys later.
Yeah.
See ya.
One of the reasons why they are down is because they gave a very soft guidance. So they know like, hey, when a new CEO is coming in, the last thing you want to do is set the bar so high that, when the first quarter, second quarter hits, everyone's like, oh my God, what the hell? This new guy is not living up to the expectations, and then start to really go crazy with selling the stock. So I think they're making some prudent moves for the intermediate and long term. In the short term, there is a little bit of pain in Snowflake. So, I think more importantly right now, I am concerned about this, and I'm hopefully today's trend is what stays that way. So you see this is a crude oil prices, right? If you guys remember last year around June and July, the entire market was just celebrating. They're like, oh yeah, inflation is dead. Everyone's, sub 2 by the end of the year. There's going to be like 2 cuts at the end of the year around June time. What happened? Energy prices started to go up. And when the energy prices started to go up, that started to drag CPI headline and core higher because oil just touches so many industries and so many things, whether it's logistics, whether it's input for manufacturing, for all sorts of things. So the price of oil really did reaccelerate inflation, and because of that, the Fed had to, push back a lot of the cuts that could have been
OPEC
made
also
last
did
year.
more cuts today to
Yeah. And so you're starting to see this slow, gradual move upwards, and the trend right now is still, on its upward trajectory. I'm hoping that it somehow stabilizes. I don't know how Biden and the administration do it, but if this reaccelerates to above 85, 90,
oh yeah,
that's
that's not good.
because one of the biggest drivers of
Reserves. They will
disinflation.
open up. They will open up those freaking reserves. Are you kidding me?
We only have
No, they got a
60
ton. America's got a fuck ton of oil, and they export a ton of oil. So they're holding it. They're just holding it. As soon as that price gets too high, they will start to open up.
I don't know if there's a lot of reserves.
I don't think
to be
there's a
honest
lot of
with you.
oil left.
And the thing is, like a lot of the oil oil, like the upstream companies, they can't ramp up production that fast.
Yeah, I know that,
a lot of this, yeah.
Oh, maybe.
So the point is, energy prices, especially oil prices, can really throw things out of whack. And so a lot of people, they're projecting for a June cut. But if energy prices start to keep going higher, we could see that translate into higher CPI headline. And if we see higher CPI headline, that means that the rate cuts are going to be pushed back further out, maybe September. And then if at the same time we don't see any improvement in CPI, the Fed will just keep the rates where they are for the time being. And I think a lot of companies right now, their entire thesis for 2024 is predicated on, we are going to get cuts in June. Thus, we are going to buy them. We're front running them. We're front running the Fed cuts. If the Fed decides not to cut and it keeps getting pushed back, a lot of them could retrace down. So you just have to be careful and find companies that are not necessarily as impacted by a tight credit cycle. That's where I would go with it. So I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Can you bring up your chart again? The one you were just looking at?
Crude oil.
I already closed it, but let me see. Hold on one second. I'll put it up.
It's gonna be interesting, dude. If rates actually we only get one cut or two.
This is a fucking unprecedented time to be in markets.
I agree.
Like there's a lot of money to be made if you can navigate around. There's a lot of landmines, but you can make a lot of money. But it's just no. I mean, zoom out, come out of it, like not go full screen.
Okay.
And then can you scroll up?
Oh, this is what you want to see.
Can you scroll up?
You want to see the ad, the Etsy ad?
Yeah. Can you click on that thing that says "I love to eat or pie"? What the hell is that?
I'm not clicking on that, man. My algorithm's already jacked up with weird.
What
stuff,
ads
bro.
are you getting, dude?
I don't know. It's nothing. I don't. You want to know? So I erased all my YouTube search history, my Google search history. So now I'm just getting random stuff. You know,
well,
unless it's Sydney Sweeney, then I'm okay. Give me all the Sydney Sweeney you can, baby.
That woman is delectable, dude.
Feed.
Yeah,
that woman is.
Although, like about a year ago, she wouldn't have been. It's actually quite promising that we're trending in this direction again.
All right, so
we'd have to be somewhere.
What are you guys looking at this week? I'm telling you what I'm looking at. I'm looking at DC out of Bitcoin. I'm looking to pick up options on the miners. I'm looking to try to scoop up some of that PayPal because PayPal is like, I think everyone's just sleeping on it, just trying to pick up a little bit of that. Maybe some calls on that.
PayPal, I can't do PayPal anymore. It hurts to look at. Bro.
I know. I feel bad for them, but I just 5 years. I can't see them not being around. You know.
No, I agree. I agree that there's definitely a case to be made for.
I wish PayPal would be a fucking crypto play because you can buy and sell crypto on the fucking app, but it's not marketed.
They're just not, yeah. And then we're already like way over, but man, I gotta talk about fucking Google. The fuck is
Google under 130, I think is
calling for his head, man. They're calling for his head. They want to see him go.
So since it's Monday, let me just do a quick macro update on what I'm seeing on the macro side and how we should look at positioning in the short, medium, and long term. All right. In the short term, I think we should be cautiously optimistic. I think that a lot of companies, their earnings are, somewhat positive, but there's also been a lot of soft guidance from a lot of companies for 2024. Now, what does that mean? I think that means that the CEOs are seeing a slowdown in demand, depending on which industry we're talking about. And they're being conservative with their guidance just to make sure that they're setting real expectations. So if they're doing that, that means that there might be some market weakness that's coming for us. That doesn't mean that, like go out there and sell everything. It just means that just be cautious. Don't buy things that are hitting 52-week highs all the time.
Wait, what is the indicator for why you would want to start being cautious? What exactly is the thing?
Well, a couple of things, huh? A couple of things.
Week of guidance for a week 2024.
Yeah, a weaker demand picture in 2024 compared to 2023. I think 2023 was an anomaly year where the economy was very robust. That was just the expectation. Remember, the market rides on expectations, and then eventually the price will either go or against those market expectations. So if you expect something to be worth $100, right, and it ends up being $80, it'll rally. Everyone's like, oh my God, look, it's they're able to sell 100 widgets. Yeah, everyone is happy. But if you come out and say, hey, we're going to sell 105 widgets and you only get 100 widgets, even though it is only a very small difference, everyone gets disappointed and sells the shit off. So this is how it is. Companies right now, they're just keeping their expectations tempered. My biggest fear is a reacceleration in inflation. Shelter, I think, is coming down, but there's such a big lag component to shelter that we're not going to see the disinflationary impacts until probably the second half of 2024, which means that I think we're going to still have a really good 2024, but right now for the next probably like 6 months, we should be cautious, and maybe this is the year that we should just do a sell in May and go away, or just close the screen and stay away, whatever you want to call it. If you're a long-term investor, you don't want to sell in between stuff. So,
but you're saying the bull market can come to an end because inflation wouldn't go away. That is your thing.
I wouldn't say that the bull market can end. I'm saying that we could see some flatness in the market for some time, like where we see these massive rallies, and then we come down a little bit, and then a rally, and then come down. So there's just volatility. But at the end of the day, you're not really moving so much. I mean, you look at every Wall Street analyst out there. They had the S&P 500 hitting 5,100 by the end of the year, right? We already hit close to 5,100, you know, so we've already literally within the first 2 months hit the estimates that where the S&P was going to be. So to think that it's going to keep rallying like this, it may not. It seems difficult. I'm not saying it can't happen. It just seems difficult. The other thing is right now with Bitcoin rallying and everything else, there might be some market enthusiasm among retail investors to get into a lot of crypto plays. And so that might be dragging a lot of retail into the market again. So there's a lot of FOMO in my opinion, you know, so we'll see what happens with that. I mean, you know, FOMO, and by the way, no one can predict how long FOMO is going to last. It could last longer than anyone can consider. But I will caution people against buying companies like SMCI and nvda at these prices, because there is some cyclicality to these companies and their businesses, and to think that like you're going to get the same level of growth year in year out for the next 5 years, which is what the stock prices or these companies are baked into. It's challenging. It's hard to take that into account. So as an example, like I wrote that on ticker symbol use like Twitter thing. I was just like, hey, Alex, you know, he was like, oh, I'm bullish on SMCI, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, listen, just know that you're buying a server and racks company at like super premium valuation, you know, not to say that they can't keep growing, by the way. I'm just saying
it's in the S&P 500 now too.
Yeah. Yeah. Just be cautious. There's a lot of companies that join the S&P 500 and then a few years later they get kicked out. Solar Edge, right? Yeah. Remember all the companies that got replaced. Solar Edge was at one point a darling. They got kicked out, right? Is Enphase still in the S&P 500?
I don't think Enphase ever made the S&P 500.
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's in Enphase, really?
Yeah. Last I checked.
Okay.
I think to echo what Chris is saying is that yes, people coming into those incredibly run up stocks trying to expect the same return dollar amount wise are going to have to risk a lot more capital, because you know the doubles, the triples, the 800s, hundreds of % return. We're just not in that environment anymore. I think what we're seeing is over the last year or two, we've seen two things. I think we've seen the market getting really excited about the prospects of AI and trying to find some way to give most companies some sort of AI multiple. And the companies themselves have been trying to position themselves as an AI enabled company. So I think we've seen that. At the same time, we've had a lot of buybacks, and I feel like that's a little bit of a creative accounting where these companies are, you know, artificially propping up the stock price and getting the EPS up to show growth, when I think the underlying asset, meaning the American consumer, I think by and large, most people are struggling. I don't know people that feel like
I don't know, dude, because the retailers like Lowe's, AutoZone, Macy's, they had great earnings. Target, Tomorrow's, Walmart had great earnings. Like
that's okay. But that doesn't mean that the average person is feeling that in their wallet. They could be spending that on credit, and credit's actually getting up their overall U.S. consumer credit card debt. So what I'm saying is, I think there's a disconnect between what the markets are saying, that the market is or the economy is, versus what the average everyday person is saying. I don't think people are doing as well as the market would have you believe, and the companies are doing what they need to, whether it's buybacks or pushing this AI narrative to get that up. But you know, to Chris's point, if they're starting to now give a little bit of weaker guidance, I think this is the year where, you know, the chickens come home to roost, or however you say. Like this is the year where you actually have to prove that in the bottom line. And if not, then I could see a lot of these companies, irrespective of their buybacks, getting a multiple compression this year, even if it feels like we're in a bull market, right? I don't know. This is really an unprecedented time to invest. There's a lot of ways you can get your ass handed to, but there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Yeah. All right. There we go, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll see how things are going. Carlos, you're going to be up all night, see if Bitcoin can get to 69.
No, Carlos, are you working right now, or are you like?
Yeah, what's funny is I don't know if it was the Bitcoin market. I wasn't working, but I landed two gigs that gave me. I basically made my income off of these two little side gigs that I'm doing. So I'm actually doing fine. I gotta say, I'm doing fine, man. I'm doing fine, and I know. Or
look at that Coinbase app. You feel really fine.
You know when it really hit me.
How many times a day do you check it? How many times a day do you check it? Be honest.
Not that often, to be honest, because I have TradingView up open on. Why do I need to check my phone if it's right? No, I have alerts. Believe me, I have alerts because the last blow off top, that the last real blow off top, the 17,000 in 2017, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning here. So it really depends on who pushes it over the edge, right? If it's the U.S., then I'll be awake for it. No, I'm up a lot.
I think each one of us has our private jet stock. You know, Carlos has got his Bitcoin private jet. I've got my Celsius private jet. Amit's got his Robinhood private jet. So we even though we are balanced investors and we have balanced portfolios and other things,
we also went balls deep into
you know
one
what it is?
specific
You know what it is?
asset each.
When we're done,
Vitaly's the only diversified fucking guy.
No, he'll have his end phase. He'll have his end phase 1 or whatever, whatever.
End phase.
But when we roll up to the airport, I'm painting mine like a NASCAR. That's good. When you see the B, the big yellow B, you know motherfuckers in town. When I see Alex Karp's face on the wing of the jet, you know that Robinhood paid for it.
Quick stat about Robinhood, their CFO was at a conference.
You're doing really well, man. You're doing really well on that one. That's good.
They did 3.5 billion in deposits in February, 3.8 in January. Right. In all of Q4, they did 4.6. So they did 7 billion the first 2 months of the year, which is more than 4.6 they did in the last 90 days. I think they're gonna have a good earnings, dude. I think they're gonna crush it's on number 8 on the App Store. Went from number 20. Like I think.
Bro, there's a dam. There is a fucking dam. You know how they talk about the wall of worry? There's a dam of worry holding $6 trillion from coming in the markets because these fucking assholes are making 5% somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? There's a crack in the dam and the money comes flooding in. It's just gonna be ridiculous.
I just woke up and I did not realize Celsius was at $87.
I was gonna tell you. So me and Chris were on the phone today when Celsius was like 82.
Like, that's why my boner was especially.
Celsius went up almost 10% today, right? Celsius
when I woke up this morning,
it was up 9.5%, dude. Like I mean,
nuts.
It did well.
Just fucking nuts. By the way,
I have my portfolio right now. The missus is gonna be real fucking happy, dude. Dude, I'm gonna be bold today and just be like
asymmetric bets, dude. It's centralized asymmetric bets. I think all of us have done. And look, we're not in the clear yet. I mean, things got to play out.
We got to realize
that's
the
what
game.
it takes.
By the way, I looked it up. We have 4.9 times its annual consumption. So that means we have about 5 years at the current consumption rates, even though you would assume that the rates.
We better start pumping, dude. We better start pumping. Trump gets into office. He unleashes the oil reserves.
Either that or Michael Saylor needs to start buying oil.
If Trump gets into office,
never been a commodity quite like oil. Ask yourself.
That's a good impression. You're listening to way more than me.
If the dinosaurs had invested in oil, they would be here today.
No. All right, Carlos. Let me do the Trump impression.
No, that's a Michael Saylor.
He's doing Saylor. He's doing
Michael Saylor's. Okay, gotcha. I'll do Trump. We just have the best is oil. All right, we just have America. We've got the best oil. No one can compete against us in oil. Just this Biden administration. No, just Sleepy Joe just does not want to pump this oil. But you know what? You get me elected, I'm going to make sure that you're going to be able to get gas at $2. I'm going to have the best oil, the absolutely best oil. I'm going to send the Mexicans back, and I'm going to bring oil. Oil is I'm going to save the economy.
We're going to get all the people from Operation Warp Speed, and we're going to Jesus turned water into wine. I'm going to turn water into oil. I'm going
to flood the Rio Grande with oil. That's how much oil we're going to have. It's just going to be the Mexicans trying to slip and slide all over the Rio Grande.
They're going to slide over our border from the oil slick. That's what we're going to just lay down and then light them on fire.
Drill, baby, drill. Dude, I'm fucking waiting for Trump to come back. Because let me tell you, the best 4 years,
dude, not only
Trump was in office,
not only you, the whole media is so bored. Damn. They will be salivate. They're going to say they hate Trump. They're going to be so happy they have something to cover when Trump gets into office.
Dude, all of their ratings, man, all of their ratings are just going to be like, I'm telling you, bro, Trump was amazing. Like, I remember waking up in the morning and going to Twitter, be like, yo, what is Trump? The crazy shit he's going to say today, baby.
You saw 9-0 Supreme Court. He's allowed.
That case got tossed. Yeah,
so he's going to be on the ballot.
Okay. So here's the thing about that. That was so fucking stupid of an argument that these states were trying to make. It made no sense. Like, oh, trying to use like the Constitution against Trump, saying that, oh, he's an insurrection. He hasn't been convicted of an insurrection. You can't say that, oh, you know what? He's ineligible to run. And not to mention, on top of it, you can't have states deciding national elections. Like, just, I tried to listen to the arguments, and it was just retarded. So I think a lot of these, I don't know what the logic behind is. Maybe just to slow Trump down. And then Nikki Haley was celebrating at some, like, oh, look, we've got Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
It was like 2,000 people that voted. Like, D.C. has, you know how many? Okay, all of D.C. Do you know how many total registered Republicans there are? It's like 25,000. 25,000. That's it.
I didn't think you were allowed in there. I didn't think you were allowed in there.
And only 2,000 voted.
They shipped them all out.
You know, and only 2,000 voted. You know, it's nuts. So it's like, whatever, man.
But that's like those polls that you see, right, on CNN or whatever. You know, that so and so's doing well in this state, but then you look at the sample size is like 1,000 people, and they made 100,000 calls to get 1,000 that would actually give you an answer.
It's kind of sad, but you can.
Dude, by the way, Shiba Inu is up 94% today.
Oh yeah, no, I know a buddy of mine who bought a bunch of that nonsense
today, dude. Today,
he bought a bunch of it like last month. He's like, "Yo, I'm up like 25,000." He's like,
"No wonder, man." My brother-in-law called me today in the middle of the day, saying, "Hey, man, you have any Shiba Inu?" I was like, "No," and then I went back to, and then he's like, "Okay, dude, he's my crypto guy."
In a day,
he still has like 12 billion safe moon.
He's still
holy God. Bro, you talk about hodling, bro. My brother-in-law's gonna be.
I'm kind of glad. Listen, I'm kind of glad. Like the last real run, it was that we didn't have like this whole channel. I'm kind of glad that we're all in to witness this fucking madness go down. There's nothing like crypto fucking madness. It's like a WWE event.
Yo, just
coins are flying off the top rope. It's like a Royal Rumble, last man standing.
Listen, when we become old, right? There are going to be people who are gonna say, "Son, I am going to give you this Ferrari." It's like, "Grandpa, how did you make all this money when you were younger?" "Well, son, I sold pictures of monkeys to people." Like, literally, cartoon monkeys. There are people who became millionaires off of selling cartoon monkeys. Can you fucking believe that? And I'm not talking about like the average retail people buying these cartoon monkeys. I'm talking about the likes of like fucking Jake Paul and Mr. Beast and all these people. Just take 2 steps back. Can you believe this is where we were as a society 2 years ago, where we were trading monkeys, monkey pictures, cartoon monkey pictures?
50 years from now, there will be a kid asking their grandfather how they got the money for their Ferrari and why is their brother named Shibu? Like, why did you do that to our family?
It just goes to show when we're in like mania mode, all logic just goes out the door, and people are like,
we're not even there yet.
Are we? Yeah, that's something. Are we in mania mode yet or not?
I actually don't know that we're going to get that same sort of retail FOMO. I just don't know that we're going to get that sort of retail FOMO. I feel like retail's had it long enough to buy what they've wanted, and I don't know that we're going to get that retail thing. But I don't know that we necessarily need it. But I'm done. I've talked so much crypto today. I got to go hug my kids.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
See you guys. Bye.